Welcome back to the Nancy Levin Show. Happy that you're here. And since Levin Life Coach Academy is kicking off this month, I thought I might take you on a little behind the scenes journey as we move through the program. So, right now, we are in Module 1. Module 1 is Reinvention Coaching. And in this module, I put the students in the program in the seat of the client. So I'm coaching everybody as a group through Reinvention Coaching, which is the first coaching model of mine that everyone in LLCA has the opportunity to be certified in. But because I come from the standpoint that we need to coach from the scar and not the wound, it's essential to first do our own healing work first before we can guide others to theirs. So in Module 1, everyone who comes in is in the seat of the client first, and I'm guiding through the 8 dimensions of reinvention. So we begin with vision. And I personally find it overwhelming to look at my vision as something big and blue sky. I feel better about accessing my vision when I'm looking at particular areas of my life. So that's what we do. We move through a process of being able to identify the ideal set of circumstances for different areas of life. And from there, we sort of have a pie, and then we have the holistic vision. I'm also a big believer that our vision does not need to be created. Our vision exists within us. Our vision just needs to be dusted off. And our vision really is that gravitational pull that moves us forward toward what it is we most desire. One of the elements that I bring into the session around vision is that as we are bringing our vision to fruition, as we're taking action and making choices to bring our vision to fruition, we need to look at what we are willing to eliminate as well as what we want to integrate. So it's not always about what we need to add in order to have what we want. It's equally as essential to look at what we are willing to release and let go of. And these can be beliefs, these can be behaviors, but we want to be able to consistently look at what is it that I need to eliminate and what is it that I need to integrate in order to bring my vision to fruition. Next, we move into calibration. And the session around calibration focuses on incompletions, which really are the unfinished business of our lives. It can be literal unfinished business in work or in a relationship. It can be clutter, internal, external. It can be the way that we sort of carry around old desires that are no longer still alive, but we use them to beat ourselves up with. And so as we're calibrating and recalibrating to the vision that we're holding now, we are looking at these incompletions and making conscious choice around what is no longer serving us. What desire or what element of our vision from the past are we dragging around, even though it's really no longer something that we still want? It might be something we think we should do. It might be a really old desire that we haven't looked at carefully and assessed. Do I still want this? So as we're moving through incompletions, we're looking at what are the things that are weighing us down that we no longer feel attached to in terms of achieving or in terms of bringing to fruition. Because once we let go of those, then we have the fuel to move forward around what it is that we do want. The third dimension of reinvention is beliefs. And in beliefs, we are looking at the stories we tell ourselves. We're looking at the shadow beliefs that we tend to create when we are young, under the age of 10, when we're too young to process and digest what's happening. So we draw conclusions about ourselves. We make everything mean something about us. And these beliefs get embedded in us. And these beliefs drive the bus of our lives. And we come by them honestly because we are meaning-making machines, especially when we're young. And so we are adhering to beliefs that we unconsciously land on. Beliefs like, I'm unlovable, I'm too much, I'm not enough, there isn't enough. And ultimately, all of these shadow beliefs funnel into some version of I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of love, happiness, money, joy, success, whatever it might be. So we need to be able to shift these beliefs and then back them up with action so that we can, as conscious adults, no longer be run by them. And so a really simple thing that you can even do here is check in on the stories you tell yourself. The story I tell myself is, the truth is, because we are constantly telling ourselves stories that sabotage us instead of serve us. The fourth dimension of reinvention is self-worth. And whenever we think we are looking outside of ourselves for something to determine our sense of worth and value, we need to come back to remember that self-worth is an inside job. Because our beliefs are magnetic, we draw toward us what reinforces what we believe. And so if we do not believe we're worthy, that's what we're projecting out into the world. And we will essentially attract relationships, situations, circumstances that corroborate that belief. And we will collect evidence around whatever it is we're believing. And so in terms of self-worth, when we are putting our worth and value in someone else's wagon, when we are letting someone else or something else be the determiner of our sense of worth, we're in a very precarious position. And so in the concept of self-worth, we're looking at the parts of ourselves that we've disowned. We're looking at the qualities that we don't want to be and don't think we are, as well as the qualities that we do want to be but think we're not. And all of those pieces that we stuff away into our shadow, into our unconscious, help craft the version of ourselves we put forth into the world. We are crafting a version of ourselves, a persona that's going to be palatable and digestible to those around us. We people please, we peace keep. We don't want to rock the boat. We want to avoid conflict. And the more external conflict we avoid, the more internal conflict we will create. And so we want to be able to reclaim these lost pieces of ourselves so we have access to them instead of expending energy hiding them. And so our self-worth will return when we are able to truly embrace the fullness of our wholeness, which means reclaiming all of these lost pieces of ourselves, no longer rejecting and projecting these pieces of ourselves out onto others in the world. In the fifth dimension of reinvention, we dive into boundaries. And this is a major turning point in the process because I work with boundaries in a way that's different from many. And if your boundaries are being crossed, you are the one crossing them. So it's not up to anyone else to set your boundary or hold your boundary. It's up to you. So it's not up to anyone else to honor, respect, or adhere to your boundary. It's not up to anyone but you. And what that does is immediately put you in the driver's seat. It moves you out of victim and blame into responsibility and empowerment. And from there, you get to carefully choose and consciously curate the content of your own life based on what's okay and not okay for you, what you will or will not do. And so boundaries is a real turning point in terms of acknowledgement around I can have the life I want as long as I'm willing to take a stand for what it is that I need. Next, we move into the sixth dimension of reinvention, which is choice. And so the way I work with choice is looking at our shadow commitments, looking at what the discrepancy is between whatever it is I say I want in opposition to what I'm experiencing instead. So whenever there's a discrepancy between what I say I want and what I'm actually experiencing, there's an old, outdated shadow commitment that is in the mix. Because here's the deal. I firmly believe we are, each and every one of us, capable of creating whatever it is that we are most committed to. However, most of us have no idea what it is that we're most committed to because we think we're committed to what we say we want. But when we don't have what we say we want, there's an old commitment, something from the past, a promise we made for and to ourselves that is holding us back from having what we want. So here's the wild thing. The very thing that kept us safe as a child becomes the seed of self-sabotage as we become an adult. And so we have to look at where we're out of whack. We have to look at what we need to do to move our commitment consciously into alignment with what it is that we do want. And so we have to look at what is the survival strategy or the coping mechanism we put in place when we were young. And that can look like a commitment to staying small, to staying silent, to staying invisible. And while those things may very well have kept us safe when we were young, when we are wanting to step out in our adult life, when we are wanting things that we do not have, it's highly likely that an old, outdated commitment to one of those things, one of those promises, one of those survival strategies or coping mechanisms is exactly in the way. And so we want to be able to reroute our commitment so it is in alignment with what we want, a commitment to being visible, to being big, to being loud, to taking up space instead of silence, smallness, and invisibility. We can be committed to all sorts of things that we're not even aware of. We can be committed to struggle. We can be committed to comfort. We can be committed to procrastination. When we don't have what we want, the natural place to go is to beat ourselves up. I don't have enough willpower. I don't have enough discipline. It has nothing at all to do with discipline or willpower and everything to do with being out of alignment. And so in the dimension of choice, we are bringing our commitment in alignment with our desire, always backed up by action. The seventh dimension of reinvention is self-confidence. And I really look at self-confidence as being the result of self-acceptance, self-trust, and self-forgiveness. When those three elements are in harmony, we then feel confident. So we often imagine that we need to feel the confidence first before we go do something. And in my experience, the confidence actually comes once I take the risk. The confidence comes once I trust myself more than I trust everybody else around me. When I know that I'm the only thinker in my head. When I know that I know what is best for me instead of turning toward others and asking them what's best for me. Remembering that I am the expert on myself. And so looking at the ways in which I show up, looking at the role I play, looking at the payoff of the role I play, looking at the ways that other people would describe me in contrast to the way that I describe me. All of this is a way in which we can gauge our confidence to actually move forward in the direction of our desire. But we have to forgive ourselves along the way. We cannot keep beating ourselves up. We cannot keep hijacking our own experience. And then finally, the 8th dimension of reinvention is visibility. And just like looking at the qualities we did in self-worth that we don't want to be and don't think we are, we look at the qualities we want to be but think we're not. So these are the quote unquote light qualities that we know will support us in illuminating, in shining our light in the world. And when I talk about visibility, what I'm really talking about is your willingness to tell yourself the truth first and foremost. Because you need to make yourself visible to you, completely visible, completely transparent, before you can allow yourself to be visible to others. So I look at visibility as a way in which we draw attention to ourselves. We crank up the illumination because once we have told the truth to ourselves, it's much more impactful to then be able to share that truth with the world. And so for those of us who are on a mission to be of service, to help others, to create lasting impact and lasting change, to guide others to making those kinds of choices and taking those kinds of actions, we need to be willing to tell ourselves the truth first. And once we tell ourselves the truth, then we can radiate our own visibility, which in turn gives other people permission to draw attention to themselves as well. So visibility is not just about being seen or allowing ourselves to be seen. It's drawing attention to ourselves. So this is just a little taste of what's happening in LLCA Module 1. I thought it might be fun to just take you along for the ride. I'll share more when we move into Module 2 and let you know what we're doing there. But for now, we are moving forward into these dimensions of reinvention. And it is, as always, my honor to witness the experience, the shifts, the changes, the insights, the realizations, the wins in everyone moving through the process. And if this sounds interesting to you, I'll let you know that you can learn more about the 8 dimensions of reinvention in my guided journal, The Art of Change. So you can grab a copy of The Art of Change and learn more about these dimensions of reinvention. And maybe by the time the doors to Levin Life Coach Academy open up again, I'll have the good fortune of guiding you through the process so you can guide others. Thanks so much for being here, and I look forward to being with you again next week.